the LaxFactor podcast. What is up, college lacrosse fans? You're watching episode, I was going to say 210, but this must be episode 211 of the LaxFactor Lacrosse podcast. I am your host, Ted Hoost, and today we're going to recap the Division I quarterfinal round. We'll talk about the Virginia-Maryland game, the Cornell and Delaware game. We'll talk about Rutgers-Penn, and then we'll talk about Princeton as well. But before I get into it, as always, be sure to like and subscribe. The easiest way you can support me and the podcast is just like, subscribe, share if you're a listener. And that's pretty much it. You can also go to LaxFactor.com and get swag there. But let's dive right into this and not waste any more time. Let us jump right into discussing the Virginia and Maryland game. The outcome of this game, barely in question. UVA did jump out to a 1-zip lead. It was an unassisted wraparound goal by Griffin Schutz. That got the scoring started. That gave UVA the lead with 11-12 left in the first. But from there, a 4-goal run for Maryland that spanned the remainder of the first quarter gave the Terps a 4-1 lead, and they barely had to look over their shoulder the rest of the way. Now, the keys in this game, Anthony DeMeo. Now, let's take a look here. We got Anthony DeMeo. Guy's like kind of 7th year at Maryland, something like that. He's been a pretty savage all year long for the Terps. He's their 4th leading scorer. He scored 3 of the Terps' first 4 goals in this game. Every goal he scored looked angrier than the one before. The dude has one of the best shooting strokes in the country. Guy low to high. I think it was his second goal where it was kind of kind of sidearmed it a little bit, but stung it to the bottom left corner of the cage. He's just got a great shot selection overall, and he changes the level of his shot as well as anyone. 29 goals and 19 assists on the year, including at least a point in every single game this season for Maryland. He's been one of Maryland's most steady and consistent hands, on top of being a big team leader as well. The keys to DeMeo's game are his efficiency. He scores goals 42.6% of the time he fires off a shot, putting almost 70%, 69.1% on cage. He also takes care of the ball, only 9 turnovers on the season. I often wonder how accurate those stats are, because 9 turnovers on the season doesn't sound like a whole lot, but he does do a lot of his damage off ball, so maybe that plays into it. And I can't stress enough how important DeMeo's been for the Terps in his 7th season, like I said, of playing for them. He finished this game with 3 goals and 2 helpers off 7 shots with 3 turnovers. That's a solid stat line, but that plays into me saying I can't believe that he only has 9 turnovers on the season, considering he had 3 in this game alone, so I wonder how their totals add up over time. Another big player in this game, Luke Weirman. The kid's been an absolute animal. Stat line on the day, 20 of 29 at the dot with 2 helpers, 12 ground balls, and 0 turnovers. The kid hands down gets my most improved player between 2021 and 2022, especially in terms of impact. In 2021, he won 87 of 192 draws with a 4.53 winning percentage, also put up a goal and a dish. In 2022, he's won 272 of 409 draws with a 6.65 winning percentage with 8 goals and 6 helpers. I mean, he's a face-off guy that wins the draw. More importantly, he's a face-off guy that wins the draw, and then he wins the possession, and he'll score some goals and put up some assists in the process. Shoots the rock at a 42.1% clip, which is just incredible for a face-off guy as well. He's winning the draw, streaking down the field and ripping shots and putting them on cage and scoring them at 42%. That's insanely impressive as well. Now, the Maryland defense. The defense, they're ranked 4th in the country in terms of scoring defense. They give up just over 9 goals a game, but the box score really doesn't tell the story of how good this defense has played in terms of caused turnovers and things like that. What does tell the story, Connor Schellenberger, any chance of him winning the Tewaaraton, gone thanks to this defense. I don't know that he had a big shot anyway. I guess if Virginia won the title, he would have had a shot. He goes for 0 points in this game off 5 shots. Peyton Cormier, 2 goals and a helper off just 3 shots. So he was efficient with the looks that he got, but he didn't get very many looks at all. And it's often difficult to shut down off-ball guys like Cormier, but the kicker was the reason they were able to kind of limit Cormier's looks is because they weren't getting beat on ball. They were covering Dodgers well, getting help where they needed it, covering where they sent help, covering that backside. So they did an incredible job defensively all game long. Matt Moore, 1 goal and a dish off 9 shots. Now, I've said it many times. If Matt Moore has a bad shooting day for Virginia, it tends to hurt them because those bad shooting days often end up being, 1 of 9, as was the case here, 1 of 11, 1 of 13. When he's off, he's Jack Hanna early in this season off. And that hurt Virginia overall. It wasn't going to make a huge difference, but it could have changed the flow of the game. Moore took 2 bad shots. His first 2 shots were rough early in this game, and that allowed Maryland to jump out to get after Virginia jumped out to the 1-goal lead. That allowed Maryland to get like those 4 goals. That 4-goal Maryland run was partly due to the 2 bad shots that Moore took that Maryland capitalized off of. It's not Moore's fault. I'm not saying that. I mean, the dude's a pro. Any coach, as a former coach, I'd take him in a heartbeat. You would live and die by his productivity, and you'd just be willing to do so. But in this game, it kind of hurt the flow for Virginia early, and then they never recovered after that. Logan McNaney, he deserves credit beyond this defense. The kid stopped 14 of the 22 shots he faced. He had a monster game. I heard a couple of times the telecast say, well, that was an easy save for McNaney. Bullshit. He made fairly difficult saves in this game look easy. He had an incredible game. There was a couple of like off-stick side saves where, he just kind of calmly reaches across, boom, there's a save. And he made it look easy. I don't think that there were as many easy saves in this game as they thought. Now, I will say Moore's first 2 shots, they were easy saves for sure because they were pretty much stick to stick. McNaney barely had to move. He just had to be in the right position, and he was, and then he made the save easily. But he made a lot of very good saves in this game. McNaney, he smoked the goalie battle here with the help of his defense. But the way McNaney was seeing the ball incredibly well, got off to a really good start. I get the feeling that even if the defense didn't play as well as they did in limiting the looks that Virginia got and being on their hands where they did get looks, I get the feeling that McNaney was seeing the ball well enough that he would have just stopped 20 shots if he had to, if the defense gave up more looks. They didn't, but I think that he was playing that good. Logan Wisnauskas. I knew Wisnauskas was going to have a huge season overall. I just wasn't sure what that was going to mean in terms of leadership. He's a quiet guy. He didn't seem like that guy that was going to just come with a shit ton of fire. But man, the way that he led this team, especially the way he led this team by example, the way that he got fired up for this team from the beginning of the season until now, it's been incredible. He gets hyped up after every goal. He's been a great leader, and I've enjoyed watching him fuck shit up here for Maryland in his senior year. His 3 goals and 2 assists, they were expected. His fire and the passion that he showed in this game, not so much, but he's done that all season long. Right now, if I had to vote for a Tewaaraton winner, it's Wisnauskas, and assuming that Maryland goes on to win the title, back-to-back Tewaaraton winners here for Maryland because Wisnauskas has been that good this season. Maryland scored goals in settled situations. They scored goals in transition. They scored goals within the subbing game. Roman Puglisi was good for a goal and a dish, 3 ground balls and a forced turnover. So Maryland put points up all over the place in every situation you can imagine. But if I had to pick an MVP in this game, hands down, it's Weirman. The kid helped the team win 21 of 31 faceoffs. What more can you say when you're facing a beast like P.D. LaSala? And Weirman got the better of LaSala in their first meeting, and LaSala is famous for returning the favor the next time they play, but that was not the case here. Weirman dominated the dot, got his team more possessions than Virginia had, and it showed on the scoreboard in the end. And then you got McNaney standing tall in cage like an absolute wall. So Maryland is they're really good, and I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm not that guy that's going to say, holy shit, this is a terrible tournament because Maryland's going to roll. I saw someone make the point on Twitter, well, if Maryland rolls to the finals and wins it, and if they just keep beating people up like that, no one was complaining about the Bulls when they went on their runs with Jordan and they beat everybody up. What we're seeing is greatness. And there's a part of me that wants Maryland to just roll right through this tournament and win the finals simply because they've been that good. It would be a huge letdown for them, for sure, if they don't win the title here. For them, it's win the title or get fucked. is pretty much how it's working. And I legitimately think they're going to win the title. If, Princeton, I think has a solid chance at them here this upcoming weekend. But holy shit, is Maryland just a ridiculously good team, complete in every facet of the game, an offense that never stops attacking you, that takes care of the ball. They're aggressive as hell, but still take care of the ball. They can score deep down into their roster. Their second midfield line is not, you hear a lot of people like, oh, their second midline can play just like their first. They can't, but their second midfield line is as good as any second midfield line in the country. So Maryland wins that game. They were absolutely incredible here. I didn't go through and kind of show my pictures here for you guys as we went, but oh well. So next one I want to talk about here was the Delaware at Cornell game. Cornell, they have a hard time getting out of the gate this season. They are a slow start team. They got off the bus ready to roll against Delaware on Sunday, minus a little bit of a lull in the middle of that first quarter. I think they took a 2-0 lead, and then they let Delaware take a 4-2 lead before getting the lead and pretty much, not getting in the hole again from there. In this one, Kirst was incredible in defeat. He goes for 5 goals off 14 shots. Not the best shooting day for him, but Cornell wasn't giving anyone else on the Delaware team much space at all, so somebody had to pop off shots, and Kirst was the guy. Kirst had a hot hand. He put up 30 points, 24-6 in Delaware's 5 games leading up to that quarterfinal win over Georgetown. In that Georgetown game, he only had 1 goal. Didn't matter. They still won that game, but 30 points over 5 games leading into that. He puts up 5 goals in this loss. I believe he's got a year of eligibility left, so Delaware, the Blue Hens, they're hoping to hell that they get him back, but I just wanted to give him props for playing a tough game. Angelo Petrakis, huge at the dot. 15 of 19 with a goal and 7 GBs big. He's had a rough go. The last 2 outings against Yale and Ohio State, he only won 21 of 49 draws combined with 11 GBs and an assist. That's not a great stat line overall. He's been streaky in the season, but he's been good when they've needed him to be. But when Cornell needed him to play big on Sunday and keep the ball out of the hands of a very potent Blue Hens offense, he delivered. Because, they dominated the possession battle, and right there, Delaware's thanking God for the shot clock, because even where we see guys dominate the dot, if your defense can play tough, and the Blue Hens defense has played surprisingly tough here down the stretch, you need those possessions. Petrakis got them for Cornell, and he delivered, is what you would say. Now, Cornell's defense, disruptive. They gave up 8 goals to Delaware despite their possession advantage, but in the end, their defense, they forced 8 turnovers, so despite the fact that, Delaware didn't have the rock nearly as much as Cornell, that defense still forced 8 turnovers. Gavin Adler, he had 2 takeaways and a few GBs. The real big cat in this game, though, Chase Ierlan in cage. He stopped 15 of the 23 shots he faced. Huge over the third quarter also. When Delaware rifled off 13 shots over the course of the third, Ierlan stopped 6 of them and only let 3 get past him. Now, he was below 50% in the 2 Ivy League tournament games. He had kind of been off his game a little bit, or maybe he's just playing filthy Ivy teams, and that was the problem. He was 61% in the first round win over Ohio State in this tournament, and 65% versus Delaware on Sunday between the pipes. And a hot goalie is going to be needed badly this upcoming weekend against another hot goalie in Kirst for Rutgers. Kirst's brother had a rough day. 1 goal. CJ had 1 goal off 9 shots, but he got a little help from his friends overall. And Kirst, he's going to have to be on his game this weekend against Rutgers. If we kind of go in here and we look at the stat line for Cornell, Michael Long 1-2, Piatelli 3-0, Spencer Wertheim 2-0, Billy Coyle 1-0, and you just see, Cornell had to get some scoring out of some other guys because Kirst was 1 of 9 shooting on the day, so that was a little bit rough. But overall, you'll take that. You'll take a win when your best offensive player has a rough day, and hopefully that he doesn't repeat that against his brother and Rutgers next weekend on Saturday. But either way, I'll kind of pick winners here at the end of this, but that's kind of the story of that game. It was none of these games were insanely exciting. They a bunch of these games were semi-close. The Yale Princeton game was close. This game was close. The What was the other one here? The Rutgers Penn game is going to be a little bit close, but there's a pattern. And then once the team that won took control, you kind of had a feeling, okay, this game's not over, but they had control and they didn't have to be all that scared, or you weren't as a fan all that scared. And I like I said, I've hitched my wagon to Cornell, so I'm glad to see them make it to the Final Four. Once again, I was going to try to rip through and show you guys some picks as we went, but fuck it, I didn't do it. Next game, I want to talk about Rutgers and Penn. Now, this game, in terms of the scoring timeline, it played out almost exactly like the Cornell game and the Cornell game did. Now, if we look at it here, we see Rutgers jumps out to a lead. We get Penn tying it back up here, kind of jumps back and forth. Later in the game, Penn ends up taking a 2-goal lead. That same thing played out in the Delaware Cornell game before Rutgers then goes on a big run, takes a 3-goal lead, gives up a goal late. And that's almost exactly how that Delaware Cornell game played out. Let's see here. Ethan Rawl. He played very tough defense here for Rutgers. If we come in here, we see Rawl had 3 caused turnovers, 3 GBs, and a goal. That's a big deal. On a day when your faceoff guy struggles as well, because Rutgers lost the lion's share of the faceoff, stealing the rock and scoring a goal is a really good way to kind of offset having a possession problem, and Rawl did that for him. Rawls been great all season also. 31 caused turnovers, 48 GBs, 2 goals, and 4 helpers. That's a hell of a stat line for a defender, so good job by Ethan Rawl. Bartolo and Knobloch, they led the offense, but they got scoring deep into the roster here as well. It was hot. A very hot day here. It was brutal even up here, and they'd mentioned in the telecast that Rutgers was a little bit deeper in the midfield, and that was probably going to play on a hot day like this, and it did. Rutgers had 10 players register at least a point, and Penn, they got a lot more help from their bench than they probably expected to. They had 9 guys score at least a point, the difference being their big guns didn't put up as much. If we look at the point totals here, Cole Daninger, 3 assists, Mitch Bartolo, Big Cat, 2-1. Shane Knobloch, Big Cat, 3-0. Ross Scott, 1-1. And then just a bunch of guys putting up single points here. Ronan Jacoby, quiet, but he put up a goal. And if we look at Penn's output, we're going to see, hey, Dylan Gergar had a huge game, 4-1. Handley didn't score a goal off 7 shots, but he had 3 helpers. But then it got quiet here. Shipley with an assist. Rubin, just a goal. So the Rutgers defense did a good job limiting everybody else. They did a good job of keeping Handley off the scoreboard in terms of scoring a goal, even though he had those 3 helpers. Player of the game, though. Player of the game here is Colin Kirst. The dude, I didn't say it until now because I just wanted to do the player of the game last, but man, 18 saves against the 27 shots he faced. 10 of those shots were faced in the 4th quarter as the Quakers got desperate and kind of started playing a little bit of scramble. Let's bust our ass ball to try to get back in this. And he was, up to the task on 7 of those 10 shots that he faced over the 4th quarter. So that ended up being huge. Birkinshaw didn't play bad in cage. He ends up with 14 saves here, as you see, against 25 shots. So he didn't have a bad day. It just wasn't good enough when the other team's goalie in Kirst is putting up 18 saves on the day. That's a monster game for him. In reality, when you look at the stat line for this one, you would assume Penn won. I mean, Penn didn't outshoot them, but the shots were tight. Penn put a couple more shots on cage. Saves, that's not a huge disparity here. Turnovers, nothing huge here. Clears were pretty solid. Ground balls, Penn dominated. Face-offs, Penn dominated. Penn got a man-up goal. Rutgers didn't. So you'd sit here and you'd look at this stat line. You'd be like, hey, Penn could have won this game, but because of the game that Kirst ended up having in cage, that ended up not being the case at all, and Rutgers steals this one in a case like that. So Rutgers, they win. Great game. And now we move on to Princeton and Yale. And the story of this one, it wasn't, just like I said, none of these games were insanely exciting because none of them came down to the wire at the end of the game, and that ends up being the kicker. If you have a close game throughout the game, that's cool, but every one of these teams had a spread by the end, and the other team was playing catch up and couldn't pull it off. No different here. Princeton scores first, Yale gets 3 in a row, and then Princeton goes on a 7-goal run to take an 8-3 lead. And while you can see Yale kept trying to chip away 8-6, Princeton answered, 9-7, Princeton answered, 10-8, Princeton answered, 11-9, Princeton answers and some, gets a little bit of a cushion here, and then Yale scores one more before Princeton puts the dagger away. In terms of individual stats here, Princeton no one had a huge monster game here, and that's kind of the story of the weekend. No one, outside of Kirst and his 5 goals, nobody just went ape shit crazy this weekend, but everybody got a little bit of action here. Chris Brown 1-2, Sam English 3-0, Coulter Mackesy 2-1, Slusher 1-1, Christian Ronda, and this is why I like Princeton. Offensively, Princeton is not a match for Maryland, but defensively, they're insanely solid. They don't take the ball away a lot, but they play good position defense. They play well within their one-on-one matchups. They help effectively. And then you have a goalie in Eric Peters here that he puts up 17 saves versus the 27 shots he saw. So we just keep seeing goalies have big games. You look at Paquette, the young kid for Yale, he ends up with a big game as well. But, I think I think that Princeton, probably of the teams that are left, has the best chance of beating Maryland, because I think offensively they can come at you, and if one guy has a down day, they've got other dudes that can put it up. I mean, Alexander Vardaro, they can go 6 deep in terms of their scoring output, and they're going to need to go a little bit deeper against Maryland. And like I said, Maryland's the favorite. I mean, I think Maryland's going to win the game here this upcoming weekend against Princeton, but Princeton has a shot because they're good in every area of the field. And, Tyler Sandoval struggled. That's going to hurt him. So what it's going to come down to is, can Sandoval and company split with Weirman? If they can't, game over, unless Eric Peters can put up 20. Like, Eric Peters will pretty much have to have a 20-save game to try to be able to, if Princeton's going to win, it's going to be because the face-off battle didn't go Weirman's way completely. Maybe he only wins 6 out of 10, overall 60%. And Peters is going to have to put up 20 saves. I think that's going to be key. But Peters can put up, he can put up big saves. You look at his numbers here. If we kind of rip through, let's take a look. My internet is really slow for some odd reason. Come on. Well, I was going to try to show you Peters' stat line here, and for some reason it's just not loading. There we go. So we can look at it now. Yeah, I mean, you look at his save totals here. He's above 55% in these first 5 games here, has a rough outing against Penn, has 2 rough outings here against Penn and Yale, but then he's back above 60% through this whole stretch before having a rough outing here and then a rough outing here within that's the Ivy League tournament loss to Cornell. And then they beat Boston U, and he goes 75%. That's the kind of day he's going to have is a 75% day. I don't think 63% even gets it done. I think he's going to have to stop a shitload of shots. And against the angry shooting that Maryland's going to put on him, I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen, but that is going to happen if Princeton is going to have if Princeton's going to have a shot overall. As we look at the matchups for this weekend, got to go to the calendar. The stupid pop-up ads. I hate that inside lacrosse. Rutgers, Cornell. If I had to pick these games, now this is where shit gets hairy. I was 10 of 13 in my first weekend of bets, placing bets. I was 10 of 13 in that first round, but that one's kind of easy. The only ones I got wrong was I took the spread, Georgetown covering the spread, and Georgetown winning. That neither of those 2 things happened, and then I also lost on the spread in the Penn game, I think is what it was, although I picked the winner properly. So it gets harder and harder this past weekend, because I on purpose took Virginia money line because that paid better than any bet the whole weekend. So I was just like, shit, let's just put money on that. I didn't do as well this weekend because I was trying to gamble and get greedy and take underdogs and win more loot, and it just didn't pan out. But this is going to be the toughest to pick. Now, I think in this battle here, it's going to come down to who's hotter in cage and who gets the edge at the faceoff dot. And does Cornell come out and start slow again as they have earlier in the season, or will they come out and play 4 quarters like they did in the game last weekend? In the end, I'm taking Cornell. I do like Cornell. I like Cornell's offense, not more than Rutgers, but I like what they do in their settled sets a little bit more. And defensively, I like Cornell. I like Ierlan. I like the way that Ierlan's been playing. It's tough not to take Rutgers in this one because you got to love Bartolo. Every time Bartolo scores a goal, he's like a full head ahead of everybody else. But for some reason, I have a feeling that Cornell's going to be able to pull this off, especially if they can win at the faceoff dot overall. In this Princeton game, Against Maryland, I am obviously taking Maryland, and I would say this Rutgers-Cornell game is probably going to be one of the better games in the tournament. I think this game has the potential to go right down to the wire. We could see overtime. We could see a one-goal game. I hope that's the way this one plays out, because realistically, this one's going to be probably for at least a 4-goal win for Maryland, and you could end up seeing Maryland do to Princeton what they did to Virginia, because Maryland's playing much better lacrosse right now overall. The reason Maryland's playing much better lacrosse right now overall is because of these two guys. The transfer portal has been very kind to Maryland, but Keegan Kahn, the last time these guys played, he had, what did he have? He was 0 for 0 for in this one off just 4 shots. He had a rough stretch here through these 3 games. You could even say through these 4 games. Let's highlight them. Rough stretch for Kahn here, but once Kahn figured it out, got his shit together, you just see the output. 4-3, 4-1, 3-3, 4-2. Hey, just 2 goals and a big win over Ohio State. 4-1, 2-2. A little bit quieter lately, but they haven't needed him to do anything huge. It's, because everybody's been scoring a boatload. So Kahn is one of the reasons they've been killing it, and Donville too, the other transfer from Cornell. Kahn from Virginia, Donville from Cornell, and you look at what he did too. He kind of had a little bit of he really hasn't had a lull. He's been pretty consistent here throughout the whole season, but you see what those guys have done, and that's been huge for Maryland overall. So I think Maryland's going to win it, and then I'm not even going to pick a winner. I mean, I think Maryland's going to win the whole tournament. So I don't need to go through and try to pick that next round here. We got a cat chirping me. Let's see if we can get the cat to come up on the desk. Oh, it's gonna. So, hey, is this going to be your first appearance of the season? Come on. Come on, dum-dum. This is our fatso. This is the fat cat. You still can't see it. Let's see if I can get it to come over here. Nope, it's not going to. So, anyway, let us take a look at the D2 action here a little bit. We had games this weekend. Now, Tampa beat up Limestone. They had an issue here where their coach actually had collapsed on the sideline and had to go to the hospital. I hear he is doing much better in recovering, though. They actually had to break at some point in the first quarter. And when the teams came back out, Tampa just proceeded to kick Limestone's dicks in from there. Cole Willard, 4-1. Harry Kilkowski, 3-1. Nick Papa, 3-0. Is he related to Tom Papa? We'll never know. So, Tampa, they filled it up here in the end. In terms of the goalie battle, we see, just both goalies had a hell of a day. Even Chase Taylor coming in relief had a big day. Blake Ulmer, 14 saves against, 7 goals against. And actually, Baxter didn't play terrible, nor did Lyons. Limestone did everything that they could here to not get their dicks kicked in, but that was just the way that it played out. And then in terms of the faceoff dot, pretty fair. So what this is just Tampa is filthy offensively and probably similar to a Maryland-type onslaught in terms of the way they just keep coming at you. So they beat up on Limestone. Now I got to go back because I clicked that stupidly. And then the Mercy-Lemoyne game, that bad boy went into 2 overtimes. So that is pretty crazy. Who scored the game winner? Now I'm going to have to look at this here. Dominic Scorscia scores the game winner for Mercy. So that's a big deal. Hell of a job there, kid. If we look at the scoring here, nothing huge. Brady Kiernan, he goes 2-3. Dominic Scorscia, 3-0, including that game winner. In terms of the goalie battle, 16 saves against 27 shots faced. You'll take that all day long. Frank Delia didn't do bad for Lemoyne, but Mercy moves on to the finals against Tampa. And from what everybody is saying, I have not watched a bunch of Division II lacrosse, to be fair, but from what everybody's saying, Tampa's probably going to kick the dicks in of Mercy as well. Let's actually see, have Tampa and Mercy played yet this season? They have not. But when you look at the scoring differences here, Tampa's beat a lot of people up throughout the season. Not that Mercy hasn't. So, yeah, I think Tampa's going to win this one. It'll be pretty sweet. Get them a national title here, and we'll go from there. Now, the D3 action. We'll talk about a little bit more about these games when we preview them coming up here. I watched both of these games because the Virginia-Maryland game was fairly boring. RIT beat Tufts up. Even this 26-15 final score doesn't do it justice, because at one point I turned on the game and I think it was like a 3 or 4 goal game, because RIT had jumped out to a big lead. I think they outscored Tufts 10-4 over the course of the first quarter. Tufts got a couple of goals in the second, made it look a little bit better, and then RIT just rolled from there. It was an absolute beatdown. And you just look at it here. Luke Pilcher, 7-2. Gaston, 7-0. Commandant, 5-1. I mean, they just lit it up all the way down. Boyden was 6-0. Berdahl was held to 2-4. That's holding Berdahl back for sure, because this dude has scored a shit ton of points this year. Berdahl has. What's he got? 67 goals and 77 helpers. Berdahl has been just a monster for Tufts, but not on, what was this? Were these games on Sunday? Yeah, I couldn't believe, too, that these guys played the semifinals on Saturday in 90-degree heat, and then they had to turn around and play the finals on Sunday in, 85-degree heat. It wasn't much better. Drew Hutchinson, solid in cage, 12 saves against 11 goals against, and you see here, Garzone did not have a good day. 8 saves against 26 goals. So that was a really rough outing. And then the face-off dot, it was fair. It was fair. Tufts actually won the better share of the draws or whatnot. Jimmy Spillane was solid for RIT though. And then we have set up here now an all New York Division III final, because Union held off York. Union was up, I think, when I turned this game on, like 8-2 or something like that, and York just kind of battled back, slow but sure. But you see here, Hayden Frey, 2-1, Peter Burns, 2-1, Zach Davis, 2-1. These guys, the reason Union has been so good is because Burns here, 58-25, Keaton McCann, 43-24, Hayden Frey, 36-28. You just look at what these guys have done. They have been solid all year, that attack group of these three here. And they were pretty much all solid here. At least Frey and Burns were in this game here. Not monster games, but when you're playing a low scoring game like this, you got to do what you got to do. In terms of the goalie battle, Dan Donahue stood on his head for Union, stopping 67% of the shots he faced. He had 16 saves on the day, and you look at Jack Michael for York, he did not have himself a day. But in fairness, I watched the game. I mean, Union was just lighting shit up. They were getting a lot of really good looks. The defense for York kind of let their goalie down a little bit. And then at the face-off dot, Union won the bulk of the draws, and in a close game like this, that ends up being key, especially early in the game. So who do I pick for this one here? What do we got going for the finals? Let's just bust out the calendar just so we can look at, no games are scheduled. These finals aren't even loaded yet, but I think RIT is going to win this game. RIT, let's go back then, because we can actually look at it. RIT beat Union by a goal earlier in the season here. Where are we at? Union, yep, they beat him 14-13. Earlier in the season. Oh, wait, I clicked the wrong thing. There we go. And in that game, what happened? Keaton McCann was 5-1. Frey was 1-3. Davis 2-1. Marley Angus 4-2. Commandant 3-1. So, both teams can score goals. We know that. The goalie battle in this one, what did it come down to? Both goalies had a rough day, but Dan Donahue played the better game, hence Union being in this game. And then at the face-off dot, what happened? Matthew Pilato, 82%, or Pilato, 82%. So Union won 82% of the draws, more than that, or a little bit less than that. They won 70% of the draws overall against Spillane, and they still lost this game by a goal. So they're going to have to repeat that. That's a stat line that sticks out. They're going to have to repeat that to be able to have any chance against RIT. And if we look at what Spillane's done lately, let's see, face-off winning percentage. You see here, he had this stretch. That's the Union game where he's 30%. You see he had a down game against Skidmore, 25%, but he has been really solid since then. Been above 50% every game since that Skidmore rough outing. So as long as he can play tougher and not get absolutely roached by Union like he did the last time they play, they probably end up winning this game here. And then if we look at, I guess that's all we have to look at. Let's see what the fans are picking so far. Have the fans picked anything? Fans are primarily picking, it doesn't even tell us, does it? Oh, that was for that last game. I'm rambling now. All right, so that's pretty much it. We've made our picks here. D1, we're just picking Maryland. For D3, I like RIT's chances of winning so long as they don't get absolutely roasted at the face-off dot like they did the last time against Union. Tampa, I think we could see a 5 to 10 goal spread in that game. Those games that won't probably be televised on ESPN, but they usually are televised somewhere, and maybe even like officially by the NCAA website or something like that. But if you want to watch the D2 and the D3 games here, hit the calendar up. If you go to, let's say, like the D2 calendar, or even the scores page would end up having it. If you went to the D2 and the D3 scores page on game day, it'll have a little webcast link here where it shows the score. So if you want to try to find the D2, it used to be when I was a kid, the D2 and the D3 games would be televised on ESPN on Sunday. At some point, they stopped doing that, which is a damn shame because those games are usually every bit as good and entertaining to watch as the Division I games are. But 100% they will be streamed, and you'll be able to watch them if you have an internet connection because you're not, from like the 1920s. So hit the Inside Lacrosse score. Or you can either hit the team schedule will have a link typically, or you can hit this Inside Lacrosse scoreboard and it'll have a webcast link that'll jump you to those games. So do that. I will probably not be back Thursday. What's the sense? I've already previewed these games a little bit. I will put a video out Thursday that I already have cut up. It will be breaking down. I forget what I broke down. I broke down, I think, Penn's game-winning goal or something like that from the week prior. So I'll put a video up, but we're not going to do a preview show or anything Thursday because we kind of did that as part of this. And then as normal, I'll probably do a show, maybe even a live stream Sunday morning, recapping Saturday's games. And then we'll have to do another show on Tuesday, recapping Monday's game. So that is it. I will be back. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Help me out. Share the podcast, like the show, subscribe, do all that good shit. And I will be back on Sunday morning. We'll live stream Sunday morning's show talking about Saturday's action. And that is it. Hoost is out.